to Just Onside. It's the new year, so those of you who celebrate the Gregorian calendar, Happy New Year. Hope it's a good one and a safe one and a peaceful one. But with what's happening in the world, I doubt it very much. Brother Owis, how are you, sir? You've been you've been in Saudi, haven't you?
I have been to Saudi, very blessed. Came back on Monday morning after a couple of weeks with the family, extended family. There were 19 of us, Ayub. Lovely time. Very grateful. Incredible opportunity, to be honest. But I've been back to work. I've lost my voice. I've been unwell, which is often the case when you have the post-Umrah kind of routine that you've got to get back into. But I'm doing good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad at all. I'm enjoying the way things are going at Leeds, which is surprising because obviously, but sort of before you went, I'm not sure exactly the type of run that we're in, but since that Man City half time, even though we lost the game, we've been fantastic, difficult to beat, and got a couple of wins as well. And it was an excellent performance yesterday, which we'll talk about later on. But let's kick off the new year with some dramatic news. There was rumours flying around about Maresca, and then suddenly it was just sort of made public that he's left. I'm still not sure whether it's a sort of mutual thing, whether he's sort of walked because something's not quite right for him, or whether he's been sort of dismissed. So, what's your sort of take on that? Because it's been a little bit mixed with Chelsea. I mean, I've obviously got a lad who supports Chelsea. He sort of sometimes criticises me, sort of saying that they're not as bad as you think, and they've been reasonably good this season. But every time I've watched them, very indifferent, very inconsistent, and they've got an extremely expensively assembled squad who, in my opinion, have not quite sort of produced the results. So, but it's still a shock. I wasn't expecting Maresco to leave so early. What's your thoughts, and what's your sort of thoughts on? Obviously, there were some rumours about him sort of having conversations with Man City as well. So, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, Ayub. I mean, it's quite the dramatic story, isn't it, Ayub? I mean, even by Chelsea standards, this is quite dramatic. And I have been texting your son over the last couple of days and a couple of weeks and ribbing him a little bit because a couple of weeks ago, after the Everton victory, if you remember the famous comment or the infamous comment from Enzo Maresca post-game talking about how the last 48 hours had been the most difficult or something along those lines. Not wishing to expand on what he meant and leaving the rest of us to kind of decipher what he was hinting at. Clearly, there was some disgruntlement with the club or senior stakeholders at the club. Your son seemed to indicate at the time, and I've been ribbing him, saying it's been blown out of proportion, he said. Clearly not, because he's lost his job a couple of weeks later. No, look, this is Chelsea, isn't it, Ayub? It's not a surprise. They're a club that ultimately works on its own rules, works with its own way of working, very different to a lot of other football clubs, or at least what other football clubs aspire to be. I'll come on to maybe the larger picture with Chelsea, but you're right, you've detailed it well. What are the reasons behind Enzo Maresca leaving? Clearly, there's a misalignment between the club's senior stakeholders, Todd Bowley, clearly Capital, the owners of the club. There's some rumours on there, Ayub, that he'd had some talks in October about potentially replacing Pep Guardiola at the end of this coming season, potentially. There was some talk that the 48 hours that he was alluding to was disagreements he was having with the medical staff about the way he was managing some of the player personnel, not least Reece James. I think what we're facing right now, Ayub, is briefings from both sides. So we've got to be careful about what we believe and what we don't believe. This is now a PR game to try and get the kind of narratives out there. I think what was the statement Chelsea made about lacking emotional maturity or whatever it was, or something along those lines. I mean, it's gotten a bit ugly, as you'd expect in an unexpected divorce. But I thought the clock was ticking with some of the results being that it was at Chelsea Football Club. And once he made those comments, I think I messaged the lad essentially saying he had better be careful because this only ends one way, and it has only ended one way. So it's very rare that a manager who doesn't have the cachet of a Klopp or a Guardiola or a Ferguson or a Wenger comes out and says what he says. And he doesn't have that cachet for him to come out and talk that way. And somehow we think that's only going to end with him becoming more empowered and more emboldened. No, it goes the other way, especially with owners as I'm going to say belligerent, but we know some of the history of the owners there at Chelsea Football
Mm,
Club. So look, I think it's surprising and shocking in the sense of, I mean, they're doing okay. They've had a poor run of results. Let's be very clear. You seem to often remind me that football's all about pots and trophies. Well, they won the Club World Cup, but yeah, he still lost his job. I often find these examples with Ange also losing his job at the end of the season after winning the Europa League. But clearly, it's not the be all and end all, is it? So,
mm.
look, he's paid with his job. I think the reason he's paid for his job is perhaps because he was maybe not as committed to Chelsea Football Club, and I think also the Chelsea owners probably took the view that, well, if you're not committed to us, we better move on quick, fast, and in a hurry. It's still shocking in terms of the timing. They could have probably found an amicable way at the end of the season, but Chelsea don't shirk themselves away, do they? You're from headlines and taking tough and brutal calls. So I think from the manager perspective, look, I think in the end he'll manage again in the Premier League. Let's be very clear. I think his stock is still high. From a Chelsea perspective, it'll be interesting to see what route they take. And just very quickly, Ayub, I just want to talk about Chelsea. I have two Chelsea supporting fans in my life. One is your son, and one is my brother. And they're the only two Chelsea supporting fans that I know. Um, it's a very unique football club. I could never support Chelsea Football Club. Even I just couldn't, in the way that some of the values are, some of the way that we operate, the way we think about football. Yeah, maybe for some it's just about winning, and they've done a lot of winning over the last couple of decades, especially since Roman Abramovich came in. I thought my brother had an interesting take. He said Chelsea were finished as a football club when Putin decided to invade Ukraine. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Um, but yeah, look, I think the fact of the matter is that they're a football club that operates very differently, and it's not something that's consistent with how I like to think about football. Anyway, I just think it's a club that lacks soul, it lacks warmth, it lacks clear direction. Um, there's always a mess. Managers never feel quite comfortable there. I've often spoke about how I want Arteta to succeed, and it's because I want him to succeed. I want him to be the one to finally be there at the end when Arsenal hopefully win a Premier League trophy or maybe other trophies, because I think he deserves it and because I want him to, because I think he's that elite level of a coach and he needs that validation with trophies. With Chelsea, it often is the way, isn't it? They win Premier League titles. They've had managers who've won Champions League titles, yet have found their way out of the door within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. So it doesn't guarantee anything for that manager. So I think that lack of consistent approach, that loyalty. There's a lot of talk about Liverpool right now, but I just think they're more of a loyal football club. You just don't. You'd be shocked at the moment if Liverpool parted ways with Arne Slot, even though they're going through a rough patch. So I can't get with the way Chelsea operate. It's not a criticism, it's just my personal preference. I could just never, and I just have them operating by their own rules compared to everybody else. Look, it's a shocking story, really. Again, he was going through a tricky patch. This is definitely a situation where personal differences has led to his demise, essentially. But it's Chelsea Football Club. This is how they rule. This is how they operate. So, do I think Maresca will be fine? Will he be back? Will he be back maybe with Man City? Perhaps. But it's Chelsea, so nothing really surprises you.
And just on the performances. Now, if Chelsea were, let's say, second and not too far away, would you have reckoned that the Chelsea owners would have made the same decision, or do you reckon that because the performances have been a little bit indifferent, they've not been outstanding, so it's made it easier for them to part ways?
Yeah, just very quickly, it's a good question. I think the question to ask is the one before that, which is that if they were second, if they were, let's say, flying high, let's say 3 or 4 points behind Arsenal, perhaps he wouldn't have come out with that statement after Everton because you don't want to bring unnecessary attention at a time when your club's going well, if that makes sense. So chances are that if they were going well, he probably would have laid low, let's say, so to speak, with some of his sound bites. And therefore, Chelsea probably wouldn't have felt the need to, let's say, make this an issue right now. I think what happened was the fact that results haven't been great has led to him becoming a little bit more disgruntled, let's say, and therefore he's come out with occasional sound bites, hasn't he? He's put snippets out there, hasn't he? You crumbs for the media to feast on. So it's not so much that I think that Chelsea wouldn't have done it if they were second. I just don't think the circumstances would have arisen where he would have given enough crumbs for the media and sound bites where we would have thought, oh, there's an issue here. And I don't think those issues would have been brought to light, so to speak, if they were, let's say, flying high. The fact of the matter is, he had, I would say, a good, 75% approval rate from the Chelsea fans. It seemed like most Chelsea fans were still on his side. Yes, some fans will argue about little things like Palmer substitutions and his approach to wingers and all the rest of it, whatever it might be. But generally speaking, it felt as though he still had the approval of many Chelsea fans. So, yeah, it's a good question. I just think if they were flying high, he'd have probably been minding his P's and Q's, so to speak, and play things with a straight bat and not offered a story where there wasn't one. Remember, he volunteered that information. Nobody really got it out of him. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, but it looks like it was coming to a head. Is it the Man City talks? Is it some of the other stuff? Maybe it's all everything combined, but it's quite the surprising story, if you ask me.
It certainly is, and I'm just surprised or more intrigued to understand the reason for why Maresca did what he did, because I presume, as you alluded to earlier, that there's only one way it was going to end if he was going to take on the club, and that was by
Yeah,
him sort of being asked to leave. So it's an interesting one as to why he's done what he's done, knowing potentially the consequences of his action. And you're absolutely right about Chelsea as well. It's a unique football club. And it's had a history of owners which have been quite sort of abrasive characters. It's never been a club that you, unless you're a Chelsea fan, that you warm to. I mean, prior to Abramovich, they had a real rascal in Ken Bates, and
former
we've had
Leeds.
experience of Ken Bates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yes. So it seems to be a club that attracts a certain type of character. It is a club, I've got to be honest. I mean, it's a club that I don't like, and it's mostly to do with the culture and the philosophy. I mean, it did become a winning machine for a period of
Absolutely.
time. And I thought Mourinho was almost the perfect fit because he's an abrasive character. He's a character who takes no nonsense. But maybe it was always going to come to a head with him as well. But it's an interesting one in terms of the next man at the helm. There's talk of Rossini, which is really surprising. When I think he's a good young coach, but it just doesn't make sense to me at all that his name is in the frame. Now, we're speaking to my lad, and he sort of said, "Well, who's going to come to Chelsea? Who's available, and who'd want to come to this club where maybe there's a certain element of toxicity?" So, who do you think potentially? I mean, I still think it's a massive club, and I think it will attract a lot of good managers. Some who are probably out of work, and many in work will still be attracted to Chelsea because it's a big football club, and B, it's in London, and it's in the heart of London. So there's a lot of appeal about the club.
Yeah, and you're promised a big payoff whenever you leave. So I think
Mhm.
it's a good gig if you can get it. Look, Liam Rossini is supposedly the bookie's favourite, heading up Strasbourg, who's part of the ownership group, let's say, the same owners who own Chelsea Football Club. He's young. It's a big step, isn't it, Ayub? Going from Strasbourg to Chelsea. Um, I think it depends. I mean, it depends how they look at it. They might look at it as though we've got a relatively young squad. We're building for the future, and they may want to go for a certain profile of manager who's got a proven record of working with young players. They may go for somebody who's got a connection with Chelsea, which I guess to some extent Rossini has. Some talk about Fabregas and what have you, who's doing a good job as well in Italy. So I think, look, it's an interesting one. I just think whoever it is, there's no guarantee of success. That's the first thing because the Premier League is an incredibly competitive animal right now. And I just think, does it really matter? Is there anybody who they could appoint where suddenly Chelsea fans are going to think, right, that's us back in the big time? Not really, because you're still at the behest of the whims of the owners and how they operate and how they want to work. There's nothing wrong with doing things differently, and they have done things differently with long-term contracts and reducing the age profile of the squad. It's just they don't seem to lack any real direction. They don't really give any time. I mean, can you imagine if Mikel Arteta was coaching Chelsea, he'd have lost his job 6 times over. So yeah, I mean, it's just a different beast. Racine, it'd be interesting if they go down that road. There's some talk about Xavi as well, Ayub, who obviously had managerial experience with Barcelona, but I just think it's a difficult job. You're right that it's Chelsea, it's a big club, it's London, all the rest of the history, the trophies, and everything that they've won. I wonder whether or not they find some sort of combination of that, as well as maybe bringing a legend back. There is some talk about John Terry maybe in a supportive capacity. That would be interesting. And who knows? Most likely Frank Lampard will be back in the Premier League next season as well, so that should make for interesting viewing. So yeah, look, fun times, but really interested to see. One last comment. I think there is some talk that they want to appoint someone quickly. The timing couldn't be worse, isn't it? In terms of games coming thick and fast. They've got City, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe it just become untenable, so they wanted him out of the club. But interesting to see as to when they make this appointment and who that is. I just think whoever it is going to have it hard because I think it's a tough job in a league where it's super competitive right now.
Yep, tough job, but it's a job that I think it's very difficult to say no to. Right, that's a club in some sort of turmoil. Let's talk about a club that seems to have some sort of stability, which is amazing as a Leeds fan because I was blowing a gasket sort of month and a half ago, but it's pretty good times at this moment in time, and we had a pretty decent result yesterday as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. You,
I mean, you watched the game, didn't you?
yeah, I watched the game. I was struggling for large parts of it because it'd been a long few days. But just very quickly, Ayub, I mean, I watched all of the second half. The thing that interests me, or intrigues me most about Leeds is all of a sudden they've looked a real competitive animal on the pitch. They look like a real cohesive team. There's a couple of players who really stand out. I really like Campardo. I think he's missing the next game. Stack's doing really well. Obviously, DCL is in great form, isn't he? But as a Leeds fan, Ayub, who's let's be honest, we often compare Leeds. I mean, it's great that you support Leeds because your life's been a roller coaster. Leeds fandom is a roller coaster as well. But dare I say, a bit of stability, Ayub, a bit of just kind of boring competitiveness, keeping you in games and keeping that points total ticking over. I mean, you must be absolutely chuffed. You couldn't, in your wildest dreams, have thought that Leeds this year would would provide some modicum of consistency, which they are doing absolutely right now. How do you feel? You must be chuffed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a remarkable turnaround. I mean, we talk about that Manchester City game, and it really is remarkable how this club has transformed, and how importantly, how Farke has adapted and modified his way of approaching games because he was sort of prior to that game very sort of dogmatic and only one way. There was only sort of one way that he was going to actually sort of play, and that sort of game against City, where in the second half he changed the formation, was an absolute revelation. And from that point onwards, I mean, the one thing that he sort of said at the time as well that he'd not lost the players, so the players were certainly always sort of fighting for Clark. It was just we just weren't getting the results and weren't playing well enough. But from that point onwards, we've had some fantastic performances. I mean, and we've done both. We've played football when we've had the opportunity, but we've defended heroically. I mean, yesterday was and initially when I saw the side because he'd rested players, I mean, he'd almost thought that perhaps the game against Man United is much more important. It's a home game. Potentially, we've got a chance of winning the game. So DCL, who's been in red hot form, was rested. Okafor, his sort of partner, or at
Yeah.
least his partner for the last 3 or 4 games, was rested as well. We've got Big Joe Roden, who's injured. He's out for a few weeks. So we had a sort of makeshift. We had players who'd not had any game time or very little game time. Sebastian Bornau, James Justin, Ilya Gruev. So I mean, these are three players who've hardly had any minutes. So you're playing at Liverpool at Anfield, albeit this is perhaps not the Liverpool of sort of last season when they were at the
Mm.
peak. But I mean, they've had, I think, the last few games they've won, so they're on a decent run of form. But it was just absolutely magnificent. I mean, sometimes as a fan, this type of performance perhaps is even better than the 6-0 win because this is really where it shows heart, spirit, commitment, dedication. I mean, we seldom keep a clean sheet. So to keep a
Yeah.
clean sheet at Anfield, amazing, absolutely amazing. Every single player deserves lots of plaudit. I thought the referee was absolutely abysmal. We've lost Ampadu. I mean, you talked about Ampadu. Uh, he's a massive player for us. I mean, I still can't believe that was a yellow card. I mean, it's an accidental handball. How can you give a and it's not as if it's like in the penalty box where maybe perhaps the ruling is that you've got to give a yellow card. This was just and it's got to be costly because he's not just our captain, but he's instrumental in the long
Yeah.
throws. Obviously, our a lot of our sort of plays based on the physicality, the height that we've got. So it's an important sort of string to our bow, which has been removed. So, but I'm still quietly optimistic, but absolutely thrilled to bits with the way that we've been playing over the recent weeks. More importantly, the results, because we're unbeaten, I think, in six. Uh, we could have nicked it. We could have nicked it by the barest of margins. I mean, DCL, he sort of came on. I mean, wonderful finish,
Yeah.
wonderful little sort of layoff from Sebastian Bonau, and a really sort of nice finish. In one sense, it was good because I think there was an offside flag straight away. The last thing I wanted was to celebrate and then to have that sort of gut punch where the goal's taken away. But absolutely thrilled. We've got a really important game against Man United, which I think with sort of what's happening at Man United, the way that we're playing, it's a home game. Ellen Road, it's going to be rocking, it's going to be bouncing. So I'm quietly confident. I mean, Ampadu, that's a massive, massive blow. But I think the players that came in have shown that they're up for the fight, they're up for the battle, and even if they've not got many minutes, they can put in a shift and a half. So very, very happy at the moment. But things
I
can
mean,
change quickly as a Leeds fan.
things can change quickly, you, but that's just it, isn't it, you? I mean, if you're asking me, um, it doesn't look like it's going to change quickly because I think they've unlocked the idea of, this kind of resilience, this commitment. They understand that they can get into games. I mean, you talked about the DCL chance. I mean, look at that. DCL early in the season, he was snatching at things. He looked bereft of any confidence. Suddenly, a few goals. Look how well he takes that. He reacts well to it first. So he
Mm,
sniffs where the ball's going to go. I don't think it was, in my opinion, an intentional assist. I think Bornau was just trying to take it for himself, I believe. But even so, DCL reacts quickest to it, works out where it's going to go. And then first time, little thinking,
mm,
flicks it over Allison. He was, like you said, half a leg offside and what have you. But it just goes to show the team feels super confident. You saw in the second half of Europe, they started committing men forward, especially on that
mm.
left hand side. They started getting a few overlaps, a few cutbacks, a few situations where they were kind of pouring it on. Yes, of course, you've still got to keep it tight on the other side. I thought Farker spoke well before the game as well when asked about DCL, and I think it's good management. We know he spoke about how what it's been like for this play over the last couple of years. And he brought him and Okafor on at the same time. So he smelt that there was something there in
Yeah,
the game for them. So I think it's just good management in what is a difficult period. You can't play all the games. You can't play all the minutes right now, not at the highest level anyway. So yeah, I thought, look, Leeds, all you can ask for as a football fan, especially of one of the clubs that's expected to go down or going to be there or thereabouts in terms of relegation fodder, is that your team just grinds, competes, stays in games, and if you stay in enough games, you're going to win a few. And suddenly there's sort of a little bit more quality showing, and I think some of that is just players getting more and more confident that they're getting positive results. I think if you remember going back to, we always go back to it, Bielsa's time, the pace things they were taking at the end was just
mm,
more the lack of confidence the players were going onto the pitch with, that we're not prepared tactically right now for what's to
mm.
come because Bielsa wasn't for changing. So they were just taking threes and fours and fives week in, week out.
Yeah,
Now you imagine what that does to players' confidence going onto the pitch. Suddenly it's the reverse where you're thinking it's Anfield. Liverpool are struggling. If we stay in the game, who knows? We can get something, and which they nearly very well did.
yeah.
I'm just going to switch it up a little bit, Ayub, just to Liverpool, just for a second. I thought it was a seismic moment in that sense as well, from a reflection point of view. Really struggling on there, Ayub. That was a poor performance from Liverpool. I mean, credit to Leeds. Let's be very clear. I thought Leeds competed very well, but you expect more from Liverpool, especially at home. Even I think you yourself text me before the game saying, "Okay, the run's ending." tonight. But just I know they're missing Salah, they're missing Isak, who'd obviously got a wonderful goal at Spurs and unfortunately broken his leg. But they had enough quality there, Europe, to win that game of football. And the struggle for me, what when I watched it was more. But again, I watched first half in bits, second half all of it was the lack of planning, the lack of confidence, the lack of ideas of how we're going to break this Leeds team. It became a bit helter skelter, which I think suited Leeds okay, to be honest with you, because Leeds also look threatening in terms of transition. But Liverpool just didn't have the right ideas of, okay, how are we going to break this Leeds team down? Now, look, Leeds are making it difficult for teams as well. Let's be very clear, which is music to your ears. But if you just expect the big teams, you start to see some patterns. You start to see certain ideas that, oh yeah, I can see what they're trying to do. Whether it's through the middle, whether it's through the side, whether it's overloads, whether it's getting two strikers in and plenty of crossing, whatever that looks like. There was a period in the game, I think, from about 70th minute onwards, it was ping ball. I mean, you had Kanate hoof in it. I mean, it was just, it became a very ugly game at some respects. And you're thinking Liverpool have got to have more quality than this. I think it's a club caught between two eras right now, two eras, two styles. Understanding that we're shaky defensively, so we've got to defend, but that's also nullifying some of their attacking strengths. The game is turning into a bit more of a ping pong game or a basketball game way too often. For a big team, it should never be like that. You should be able to assert, let's call it, controlled dominance over an inferior team, which Leeds still are. There's still a chasm between the two teams. So it's disappointing from a Liverpool perspective. They've got a lot to address, Ayub, right now in terms of personnel, style, players needing to raise their levels. Multiple players this year have not been up to scratch. Frimpong, I thought, was a bright spark yesterday,
Mm.
but McAllister, Kanate, I mean, okay, your man Curtis Jones. I keep saying I need players in who influence winning, and right now they've not got enough of them. So very disappointing. And I was talking to my brothers yesterday, just both Liverpool fans, and they both spoke about how it's just become difficult to watch them from an entertainment perspective as well. And it's so true. You think about Klopp, you think about last year's slot. Liverpool for the longest time have been good football, strong football, pressing football, aggressive football, fast football, but with cutting edge, with goals. Yeah, I don't think losing Diaz and Jota as they have, I mean, that's a lot of goals that you take out of the team, and a lot of cohesion, let's say, because Jota's such a lovely,
Mm.
in terms of gluing things together. He's a footballer who can play with
Yeah.
others. He's a footballer who can score, who's very opportunistic. So when you lose that, you're going to lose something. But I didn't expect them to look so bereft of quality and ideas. And nothing frustrates me more when I watch Arsenal, which is rare now, in terms of where you think, how are they trying to break this team down? I don't understand it.
Mm.
And yesterday I was watching Liverpool thinking, how are they trying to break Leeds down? I mean, even you as a Leeds fan, of course, you're probably worried that deflection or something's going to happen. You're going to give a penalty away. But you must have been surprised that your goalkeeper didn't have to make too many saves. There was no real kind of scrambles and last ditch stuff. I mean, it was great defending. Don't get me wrong, but
Mm.
you'd expect to be under the pump, wouldn't you? You'll be in the last 15 minutes. So, yeah, from a Liverpool perspective, it was a bit of a fork in the road for me yesterday, where I was like, that's really worrying. That type of performance. Now they'll win games, of course they will. But that's worrying when you perform like that. That's super worrying, and I think right now they've got to work out what direction they're going to go in as a football club, as a manager, in terms of developing the style, because they didn't look like a team that had the idea of how are we going to break this football team down, and it shouldn't be too difficult, especially when you're playing inferior opposition.
You're absolutely right on in terms of breaking it down because the one thing, I mean, I'm sure obviously, I mean, they've got analysts who've done lots of research, and one thing that we have, I mean, Goodmanson, our left back, he's very very good going forward, but he's defensively he's quite weak, and a lot of goals have been scored from that side. And Frimpong had him on toast yesterday, and I expected that to be the modus operandi. But they were trying different things. I think they should have just sort of said, right, that seems to be an area because they weren't doubling up. I mean, I was surprised that every time Frimpong had Gunmanson, there wasn't. I mean, if there was any doubling up, I didn't see it. Uh, and I would have expected that. I would have expected Slot to say, right, focus on that for 10, 15 minutes. Now, if it's not happening, you sort of mix it up a little bit. And it just seemed very pedestrian. We were playing a low block because that really was the most effective way for us to try and keep a clean
Mm.
sheet.
Yeah.
But you're right. It just is. This was very, very sort of labored. It wasn't fast. It wasn't intense. And again, you're looking for leaders. I mean, obviously, I had a stake in the game, so therefore I didn't want them to have great moments. But I would have just expected somebody to say, I mean, this is where maybe past my criticism of Curtis Jones. I think he's a fabulous player, but somebody needs to take the lead. There has to be there are sometimes in some clubs about two or three leaders. In other clubs, maybe it needs one. Somebody just say, well, like, wake up. I'm going to make that challenge. I'm going to make a drive-in run. I'm going to take a shot. Do something to try and sort of wake up not just the team but the crowd as well. The crowd, I mean, at times it was pin drop
Nervous.
silence,
Mm.
and it's this is not the Liverpool that. I mean, I obviously have got a great deal of affection for Liverpool. Not yesterday, but I normally do. But this is not the Liverpool
Yeah.
that I sort of I admire, and I think Slot needs to because I think there's a lot of fans who are divided on whether Slot
Yeah.
is the man for the job. So I don't know. Something needs to change with that football club. So I don't know
Yeah.
what they can do though.
You alluded to it there, Yub. That is an unrecognizable Liverpool team. You think about the Liverpool style, the Liverpool way of playing. Um, Again, fast, relentless, consistent pressure. You should not go to Anfield and think, let's get through the first 10 minutes, then we'll be able to play out a game. I mean, that's how it appears now. Teams are going there thinking we can win this game of football. And that never used to be the case, not under Jurgen Klopp. No way. Not even in some of his most difficult years where he felt as though, okay, we'll go to Anfield and we'll be able to dictate like Forest have this season and other teams have. I mean, Leeds were fairly comfortable for most part
Yeah,
of the game.
yeah.
And so I think the issue that he's got a little bit, at least just from a tactical point of view, if you don't mind, is where he's got obviously Wirtz, and I think long term he's got Ekatike, Isak, and that could become an issue down the road as well. Two elite level number nines, especially where the understudy is starting to really, do really well, or has had a very promising start to his Liverpool career in Ekatike. But where he's got Wirtz, who's a fabulous footballer, you can tell he's I think he'll be fine at Liverpool. Um, but where they've not got really out and out wingers. They've got a world class winger who was a world class winger, but who isn't anymore in Salah. They've lost Diaz. Gakpo, he's come under scrutiny with Liverpool fans because they often feel he's a bit of a one trick pony in terms of cutting in. But we both spoke about the loss of Diaz in terms of what he meant, especially in terms of verticality. I think they need some top class wingers because right now they're playing more of a compact style, a bit more of a diamond formation. I don't think Liverpool fans want to see that. I mean, it gives you control in games, or it should give you control in games. But Liverpool fans are thinking, well, control's all very well, but we need to be excited. We're Liverpool Football Club.
Mm.
So I think that's where the clash is in terms of, I think he's doing it as a short term measure because they've looked vulnerable defensively. Now, look, they've got a clean sheet yesterday, but they would have wanted more. So I think he's done it as a reaction to the fact that they were incredibly open in the early part of the season. But now it's a case of that's taking a lot away from their offensive potency. And he's going to have to find a way to create good width in the winger position. Yesterday, he obviously played Frimpong, but I mean, if you're playing a right hand side of Bradley and Frimpong, Ayub, as good as they are in their own individual rights, it's Liverpool Football Club, Ayub. I mean, it's Liverpool Football Club. And you'd like to have Frimpong do that, but maybe more so from a right back position, if that makes sense, and maybe have a winger who can work. But they're missing wingers, which means teams are able to sit in that low block, keep things funneling through the middle where it's super clogged with bodies. Liverpool just don't look potent enough. They've got too many what I would call footballers, not enough pacey wingers who can upset the back line and create good situations in one-on-one situations, which is what Arne Slot spoke about in his post-match interview about not winning enough one-on-one situations. So, yeah, look, I think they've got a big issue. They look very poor yesterday, whilst giving credit to Leeds. So it'll be interesting to see. And you are right, fans are divided. My brothers seem to think, and they're normally quite patient, but they seem to think that he may be gone in the summer. Not saying that they want him gone, but they just think the way the lay of the land is, he could be gone, and that's shocking, Ayub, given that he led them to a Premier League title, but he hasn't found the solutions. He hasn't found the answers just yet. He's got time to arrest this season and end the season well, but you're right. I think it's going to become a bit of a question mark if they have more and more performances like that, because the Liverpool fans will see the landscape right now and say we should be right in the mix when it comes to the title race. And as it stands, I think they're 12, 13 points behind or something like that. So yeah, it's too far to be at the halfway mark and to be essentially out of the title race when you're the league champions. That's a big issue.
Yeah, questions need to be asked about Slot, and rightly so. Right, a club close to your heart had a thumping victory. I mean, that was, if ever there was a statement win, that was it. I mean, I must. The caveat to that is, I think that Aston Villa have been a little bit fortunate. I think the results have masked how good they are actually. I mean, it appears that they're really, really good with that sort of run of wins that they had. But I've always thought that they're not as good as the results have been shown in recent time. And when Arsenal thumped them 4-1, I think that was a reflection of the golfing class between Arsenal and Aston Villa. Surely now you must be absolutely confident that it's a done deal. I keep saying that to you. At some stage, you're going to have to sort of accept that this is it. This is your year.
Yeah, I mean, it's 19 games played and it's a 4 point lead. Nobody in their right mind would say this is a done deal. You remember, we spoke about it after the last Villa game when you asked me, after that brutal last minute win. I don't know if you remember, I was relatively measured about the way we lost that game and said, look, I think they'll be okay. And they've produced a great run of results there afterwards. The performances haven't been quite there, although the XG has suggested that Arsenal have underperformed in terms of their expected goals. But they've won games. They've won some important games. They were very lucky against Wolves. I thought they were fairly well merited their Everton win, although they didn't create much. So they've had what I would call narrow victories where they've put a large emphasis on their defense. And look, they feel confident, don't they, when it comes to defending. Against Villa, though, this was a huge win. Let's be very clear. Villa came in on the bounce of a huge victory at Chelsea, turned that game around. It's very rare that you go to a big football club, go a goal down like Villa did, and turn that around into a victory. So they were coming into it with huge confidence. But you're right, in terms of Villa, if you look at the XG table, Ayub, nobody has outperformed their XG in terms of points total accumulated than Villa. It's not even close. And normally most people would expect there to be a regression to the mean. If it wasn't for their XG, they should be 15th in terms of if they'd performed to their XG. So they've won the moments, is what it tells you.
Yeah.
And your lad said the same thing to me after the Chelsea game. They said, look, I think their run will come to an end in midweek. And he was right about that. One thing he has been right about recently. So, look, no, look, it was a great win for Arsenal. You spoke about Liverpool and leaders, and Arsenal had one of their leaders returning in Gabriel in midweek. Yes, they were missing Rice, but goes to show the squad that they have now, Ayub, that they can still go and perform like they did. First half was a tricky half. I thought Villa should have gone a goal up, and they were causing Arsenal all types of issues. I thought Arsenal did actually wrestle back some control in the first half in the last 15, 20 minutes. So it wasn't a case of Villa were all over them. I think the first 15, 20, though, Arsenal looked a bit nervous. Some good moments from Saliba defensively, but Watkins probably should have put that one away or at least got it on target. But the second half, the levels that Arsenal went to, Villa couldn't live with them. Villa didn't have anything until the very end when Arsenal pretty much had the game wrapped up. And credit to Arsenal. I mean, to nullify Villa to nothing in the second half, other than when the game was done, is testament to that. To their play, to their players. Gabriel, I mean, what more can you say? He is a force offensively from set pieces like no other in the Premier League. He wants the ball, he wants it, he goes to get it. It's interesting to see a goalkeeper try and catch the ball, and yet Gabriel's head's right there. It tells you a little bit about his
Mm,
conviction for
mm,
wanting to win the header, nowhere near a foul. So, and that breaks the game open, isn't it? You in tight games, in difficult games. Yesterday, Liverpool would have been praying. I mean, they actually fired their set piece coach before the Leeds game because they've got the worst set piece record in all of the five leagues in Europe. Arsenal, for them, it's a huge part of their armory, and they always seem to make things happen. When they need it, especially in games that are tight, they produce a situation, and that broke the game open. They then played some lovely football, I thought, Arsenal, in terms of getting the goals that they did, and well deserved. I didn't think they deserved to lose at Villa Park. Ayuba made that point at the time.
mm.
I thought they were well worthy of 3 points, and that's all you can do in this league. You play the games you play. Arsenal, for the longest time, I'm trying to think of the last time I thought they deserved to lose today, and I can't think of it. No, they've not deserved to win some of these for sure, but it's very rare that their performance tells you that they deserve to lose today. They didn't turn up at all. So, yeah, fantastic win. Happy for Arteta. Villa will be disappointed that they didn't perform in that second half, but you're right. After 11 straight wins, they're probably going to be brought back to. They're still in the hunt. Ayub, it's 6 points. Yes,
Mm.
inferior goal difference, but 6 points at the halfway mark is not beyond the realms of possibility. So they've had a fantastic season from an Arsenal perspective. Ayub, huge performance. That'll give them a lot of confidence. A lot of naysayers talking about how they've not beaten any of their rivals. Well, Villa were a rival going into that game, so yeah, you've got to give Arsenal credit. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again: if they can keep Gabriel Saliba fit, and they can have Declan Rice play most of these Premier League games, they will take some stopping because those are three players, in my opinion, that are at the pinnacle in terms of their prime and in terms of their footballing abilities. All three, for me, right now, should be in the PFA Team of the Year. So, yeah, look, incredible performance. Happy for the coach, happy for the team. Lots to do. Obviously, boost with City dropping points against a tough Sunderland team. We know it's how tough it is to go there, and apparently, it was probably a deserved draw. Neither team probably did enough to win the game. Sunderland had enough opportunities to suggest that they should have taken a point. So yeah, looking good, but got to keep going, as they say. We're only at the halfway mark.
Yeah, only at the halfway mark. But I'll sort of repeat this. I do think they're the best club side in the world at this moment in time because they've got every single base covered with the return of Gabriel as well. Massive, massive sort of boost to Arsenal. I mean, they're tough to play against when Gabriel wasn't playing. Add that to the mix, and he's effective defensively, but as you pointed out, he's effective offensively as well. So it's a double advantage of having somebody like that in the squad. Now we touched upon Man City. I mean, I watched the game. I think it must have been too late for you to watch the game. Very, very disappointed. Really disappointing performance by Man City. Now, bearing in mind, this is a Sunderland side, which I think has five or six players uh, playing in the AFCON. They've got
Yeah,
Dan Woolard as well, who is injured as well, who's obviously a massive player for them. So this is a heavily weakened side. And again, this is a brand new side. This is we talk about players bedding in. This is still a brand new side, and I expected, even though it's at the Stadium of Light, they've not been beaten all season. We gave them a good go. On another day, perhaps we could have got a result. So I was expecting City to do them. It wasn't going to be easy because they're a very fit side. Regis Labrie is a superb coach. It was never going to be easy, but I expected a reasonably comfortable win. They had a goal, I think, quite early on, which was just fractionally offside. Maybe that would have made a massive difference, but I've got to be honest, it was Sunderland in the end didn't deserve to lose the game. They gave a terrific account. On another day, they probably could have sneaked to win as well. So, but again, I've been one where I've said on numerous occasions that Guardiola is perhaps one of the most overrated coaches ever
here
to have
goes.
existed. I think
Here
no, no,
goes.
no. This is
This is the problem.
it's
This is the
gay.
problem. When Leeds start winning some games, you seem to get this kind of weird sense of confidence to just make bold statements. This is the problem we have.
But I've said this, and I think it's. I mean, there is obviously it's not meant to just be an extreme statement, but I do believe that he's a great coach of great players. As soon as you take away great players, or at least you give him maybe sort of solid players, good players, That's what he's found wanting. And I think that's the issue. He just doesn't have the caliber player that he used to have, which then means that you're really going to be pushed in terms of your coaching acumen. And this is again was exposed yesterday. A good coach, I mean, he still had good enough players, should have found a way to win that game. It didn't happen. So I just sort of think, and this is another reason why I just sort of think that Arsenal will win the league. They're the best club side in not just the Premier League but in the world. They've got a coach who's at the top of his game. The competition is, I suppose, the closest competition is Man City, but it's not a great Man City side, and a coach who's not great with sort of players who aren't absolutely elite players. And that's the reason why I sort of think it's a foregone conclusion. But very, very disappointed with Man City. Very disappointed with Pep, because he just couldn't find a way. Or what Sunderland did was they pressed, they harried, they hustled, they were physical, they're strong, lots of energy. But again, Man City should be good enough. This is if this coach is supposedly as good as people claim he is, he should have found a way. He didn't. So I think it sort of adds strength to the argument that I sort of make that he's not as great a coach as a lot of people make out.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not
Although you'd
impressed with that.
have only because I know you'd have him at Leeds, so I don't know what the problem is. But yeah, look, he's they were on a good run of results when they City have been. So look, were they due? And I don't think Sunderland have lost there this season.
No, they haven't.
Although they haven't. So I mean, look, they're a tough. Arsenal drew them. Yes, it was a kick in the teeth, last minute equaliser, but Arsenal couldn't win there. Villa couldn't win there. Now City haven't won there. They are seventh in the table. They are also outperforming the XG quite considerably. Just a gentle reminder of that Leeds goal at Sunderland, which was a thing of beauty. Ayub. But it takes a good team to get points at Sunderland, I must say. But no, that was a wonderful goal, actually, a wonderful team goal. But yeah, look, I don't think you can be too harsh. City have won games, and look, they won against Leeds last minute with Foden's winner, so maybe they were due a little bit of a setback, if that makes sense. So I don't think you can win all the games. Arsenal are not going to win all the games. This is just a moment in time in a season. I don't think you can draw dramatic conclusions from it. I just think Arsenal, it was a big moment for them. Big win, big performance. They've got the best goalie in the league, the best two centre backs in the league, one of the best midfielders in the league. Yes, there's still some question marks up front. That's fair. That's legitimate. I mean, if they had Haaland, I think they'd be walking this league. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. I think from an Arsenal perspective, this is the time now to make hay. They've been on a decent little run. They need to extend that run in the coming weeks and see if they can extend that lead heading into game week, let's say 26, 27, 28, when suddenly you start thinking about that finishing line. So yeah, good job so far. They are the best team in the league. There was a lot of talk from your son the other day about Villa's shortcomings. Not enough talk about what Arsenal did well, and I thought Arsenal did do well. I think they nullified them massively in that second half. So they're the best team in the league, and it's not easy. And it'll be interesting to see. Do you see it, Ayub, now? I mean, you probably see it as a one-horse race, but do you see it now as officially a two-horse race?
It was always at max going to be a two-horse race because I never ever thought Villa were good enough to compete. And even that run of games where they were winning, they were just. I think most of the games they won were by the odd goal. Performance weren't outstanding, and you sort of touched upon it. It was moments. They just won those moments, key moments. So I never thought Villa were realistic contenders. Man City, my concern with Man City is just the quality just isn't there. Simple as that. Uh, Yesterday was a real reflection of that. Some of the performances throughout the season have been the same as well. And I always question Guardiola when he doesn't have the tools, the high quality tools to work with, whether he's got the skill set to. I mean, and as I said, yesterday was it sort of encapsulated his limitations because they were there for the taking. Because as I said, six of their better players away in in Morocco. You've got Dan Woolard, who's been outstanding this season. So really, you'd expect a coach of the caliber of Guardiola to have come up with something. He didn't. He was really found wanting at the end. I think he ran out of ideas. I mean, I'm not sure what ideas he had at the start, but at the end he was and he had a bit of a spat again. I think one of the Sunderland players was holding on to the ball or was doing something at the end, so he was getting a little bit mouthy again. But I think I just can't see it because yesterday was massive because they can't afford the gap to be. I mean, even being level points is still going to be hard. But this it's 4 points is to me it's massive when you're talking about Arsenal. I mean, I can't see Arsenal losing too many points. So I've given it to Arsenal. I gave it to them a long time ago, and I'm going to stick by it.
You say he was getting mouthy. I mean, pot, kettle black, and all that. But yeah, let's listen. Just a quick change around Ayub. Just very quickly, just before we finish. Back to Leeds, Ayub. You're 7 points clear. Goal difference is probably worth a point right now to West
Mm,
Ham. I mean, you're -7, they're -17. It's getting to that range where you'd value that as a point, especially given that Leeds are not showing
mm.
signs of getting battered and staying in games, let's say. So, how do you feel? I mean, 7 points slash 8 points, that's significant, isn't it, at the halfway marker? You've got to be feeling confident. You've still got a 3 point gap to Forest. You've got Bournemouth who play Arsenal, I think, tomorrow in your sights, let's say. So are you looking beneath you? Or are you looking to see, hey, can we get up to that mid-table mark?
Oh, forget that. Oh, I'm still looking at making sure that we're in this league. We we've given ourselves a really good chance. I mean,
Yeah.
I never expected at this stage, come sort of January, that we'd be in a position where we're a few points clear of the bottom three, and it's been remarkable, a remarkable turnaround. But we can't rest on our laurels. I think we need to make signings. I think we need to at least add two or three more decent players because it's yesterday after the game and they interviewed Anton Stark and he was absolutely on his knees. He was exhausted because that's really what we'll have to do. We're going to have to put in a shift and a half. We haven't got the depth. We haven't got the quality. So we need to add to that. If we can add maybe two or three sort of players who sort of complement what we've already got, then I'll be very, very optimistic because I think what we've got now is a team that's working for each other, a manager who's finally sort of seen the light and realizes there's many ways
You've
to skin a
yeah,
cat.
you've
Yeah.
seen the light. That's the problem. You've seen the light.
No, 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 no. I think honest. I mean, it Bark up until that Man City game was stuck in his ways, and he just wasn't changing. And I think that has been the catalyst. I think that second half performance has made him
Yeah.
realise because prior to that, I mean, his record in the Premier League is abysmal. I mean, I think he's. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how many wins he's had prior to this season, but I think I'm absolutely convinced he's surpassed that. And we're 19 games into the season, but he's done a terrific job
Yeah.
because he's flexible. But we do need maybe two or three additions because I know West Ham are definitely going to be buying, and they're still a sort of funny side because they're a decent side. They've got some decent players. They've got sort of Bowen, who is the talisman. But if they can add a few more players, they'll certainly be in with a shot. They've got a game against Forest, I think. I don't know, it's the next game or the game after, which is a massive game because it's one where ideal for me, a draw would be a perfect result. 7 points when you're at the bottom is monumental. That sometimes is maybe a 5, 6 games swing to to make up those points. But I'm still not sort of comfortable. I'm much in a better position considering how we're playing and the results that we've got. But at the moment, I'm this team has let me down too many times for me to sort of be too sort of confident at the moment in time. But at the moment, if it's a school report, doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's they are doing incredibly well. Bournemouth are about to obviously lose Semenyo. It's just a matter of time. You're two
Mm.
points adrift of them, so that'll be interesting as to how they approach it. There is some talk that, or there was some talk that City were happy to delay the Semenyo signing so he could play against Arsenal tomorrow. But yeah, look, he's a top player, isn't he? And Bournemouth will miss him massively. So I just think if Leeds avoid injuries. You're right. Some of these players, I mean, Stack, like you said, whenever I watch him, he's always running, he's galloping. I mean,
Mm.
he's a really good footballer, and I just think the only thing that could halt them is injuries or just running out of legs. Let's say in terms of
Mm.
being a small squad. So you're right. West Ham will probably throw the kitchen sink at this because they will not want to get relegated. Those owners, but I just think if Leeds do what they're doing right now, nothing more, nothing
Yeah.
less, I can't see how they don't stay up. Because they'd have to get super unlucky. They'll win enough games. They'll draw enough games. Yeah, I mean, that's a great thing, isn't it? You've got a buffer now. So even a point, you're thinking, well, that just keeps things
Yeah.
ticking in the right direction. Even draws against teams where you might be ordinarily thinking, we better get a win from this because we're going to lose the next six, which would normally be the case
Mm.
for Leeds. Now you've got a buffer. So even if you draw a game, let's say home to another relegation rival, you're thinking, well, it keeps us ticking. So I think this whole run is giving them a great deal of confidence that they can continue to compete in this league. And look, they've got games, important games coming up. United, Newcastle down the road. They've got Arsenal at home as well, which will be tough, no doubt. But they've got enough games there, enough confidence there where they can think. And I think this is it. This, if they can navigate the next 3 to 5, the next 5 games. I think they can assure themselves of a spot next season if they can make that 7 point lead into 11, maybe 12. And West Ham have Bowen. That's it. That's it. They've got nothing else. It's Jared Bowen or bust. So Wolves are down. Burnley, you would think, are down. Don't score enough goals. And West Ham just look too leaky for my liking. So,
Mm.
yeah, there's your three for the time being. And Leeds will survive another season, are you potentially?
Inshallah, inshallah. Right, and on that very optimistic note, I think we'll call it a day. So, as always, a pleasure to see you. Thanks for making it through the episode without losing your voice completely. Now you can have a little rest. As always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy yourself. Have a really good year. I hope it's a good one.
Yep.
And your wishes are answered. All right. So until we see you the next time, take care. Ta-ra for now.